All right, hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jason Levine, and welcome to NAB Day 2 here at Adobe. I'm the Principal Worldwide Evangelist for Creative Cloud, and if you're tuning in on Facebook Live, thank you so much. In fact, audience here in NAB, let's say hello to everyone on Facebook. Let's make some noise for everyone on Facebook. Thank you. There are no audience mics. They still can't hear you. In any case, for the next 25 minutes, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the latest innovations that are coming, that are in the latest update to Premiere Pro. And we're going to start talking about some of our color workflows. So here inside of Premiere Pro, we've done a lot to really bring powerful color matching, and leveraging powered by Adobe Sensei machine learning technology to some of these workflows that I'm going to showcase to you right now. So inside of our program monitor, you're going to notice a couple of new buttons. And the first one I'm going to talk about here focuses around our comparison view. So we've got an interview shot here, and what I want to do is add some grading to this clip. So I'm going to go into comparison view, and inside the comparison viewer, you'll see that we have two options here, shot or frame comparison. Now, shot mode is what you would use if you're trying to match a grade across an entire clip. Frame comparison mode is going to allow you to do a momentary comparison in a before and after kind of scenario. So let's go ahead and go into frame comparison mode, and you can see up at the top here, we've got our before on the left, right, the after. We even have these little arrows at the bottom allowing you to swap the sides. So if you want after on the left and before on the right, you get the idea. Okay, so let's go up to our basic corrections. This was shot on a Sony FS7. So it's very flat. It needs an input LUT. I'm going to go into my input LUT selector here.
Go into our input LUT.
Pull
so this
down the
happens to have been
appropriate
shot
LUT that I
on a
need.
Sony F that I need for color
And then I
back
can do
in.
some little basic
and I can
sort
do
of
just a really
pre-grading
quick
corrections
sort of grade,
here.
just to kind of
Perhaps
treat
I'll
this a
warm
little
this
bit.
up a little bit.
Maybe adjust the temperature.
Maybe adjust the contrast.
Warm this up ever so slightly.
Pump up some of the highlights.
Push the highlights a little bit.
And there we are. And we can see
Drop
the
the
before and the
contrast.
after. Now,
Okay.
I
And
can
very
start
quickly,
working
just
in additional modules here as well. And if I wanted to turn off all of those effects previously, I had to go into the effects controls and leverage this Lumetri Color effects toggle on off. All of you said that's kind of ridiculous. If I'm working in color, I should stay in the Lumetri Color panel. So in this latest release now, you will see that you have a master effects toggle right here, where you can turn everything, every module, on or off very quickly. Also, you have the ability to reset all of your color changes right here inside of Lumetri, just like that. So very quickly leveraging comparison mode, doing before and after directly inside the program monitor. Now, I'm going to come back to this feature a little later because this is not solely for color correction. You can actually use this for any kind of effect, and you can even use it when you're designing or refining motion graphics templates, which are an integral part of your workflow now in Premiere Pro. But we'll come back to that in just a couple of minutes. Now, as I mentioned, this interview was shot, it's from a film called The Scene Between, directed by Brian Rawlis, and this particular interview was shot with 3 cameras. So we've got Red Weapon 8K. We're actually playing back native 8K footage in the timeline. I mentioned Sony FS7, and then I believe there's another Sony A7 flavor in here. And each one of these clips has kind of a different look coming off the camera. And we have one particular clip that is our hero color correction that we ultimately want to match to. So let's play a little bit of this back and give you a quick look at sort of the different temperatures of all the different cameras output. Here we go.
All you can do is...
Oh, sorry, hold on one second. We are playing 8K. Go.
Is be a part of that energy. And just take a little bit of that energy to move you forward in your own life.
Okay. So at this red marker here, this is what we're considering our hero color correction. This is the skin tone and the look that we want for all of those cameras. And previously in Premiere Pro, particularly if you were not a color professional, matching cameras, let alone just trying to match to other sources, kind of difficult. I'll be the first to tell you, I am not a colorist. I struggle with this myself quite a lot. So what I'm going to show you now is something that will change the way you work inside of Premiere Pro. So let's go back into our comparison view. And now, instead of frame comparison, I'm going to go into shot comparison mode. And we want to, let's start by working on this slightly warmer clip here. This is actually our Red Weapon content. Now, inside the reference monitor here, along our left side, we have a scrubber, so we can actually scrub to the precise frame that we want to match to, which is around 13 seconds, 16 frames, right about there. Back over in Lumetri Color, we're going to go into our color wheels section, but you'll notice that it's been retitled Color Wheels and Match. So now in this latest version, we're introducing color matching. And this new color match is powered by Adobe Sensei's machine learning technology, with a focus on the ability to match faces via face detection. So with our face detection selected, I'm simply going to click on Apply Match. Adobe Sensei is going to work its algorithmic magic in the background. And because we have face detection selected, it's going to do its best to match those skin tones, like that. Okay, now it's looking pretty good. As I look at the shirt is not exact. Now, with a lot of color matching options that you have in other NLEs, other grading softwares, typically it's a black box. It's not editable. It's building a sort of type of LUT that it applies, but you can't edit that LUT. But everything here inside of Color Match in Lumetri is fully editable and non-destructive. So in the case of this, I'm going to push some of those midtones slightly towards some of the warmer hues here. And maybe I'll do a little bit of a lift as well. A little something like this. Then I'm going to take those highlights, just push them a little bit towards some magenta here, something like that. Now, you may have noticed that in our comparison view, we have 3 different options here: side by side, vertical split, or horizontal split. Now, in this particular example, the vertical split's not going to do anything for us. But here, now you can see I can actually very closely look at those shirt colors. It looks like I pushed it a little more. Let's maybe warm it up ever so slightly again. And I can really get that shirt right into range. Let's go, oh, not that much. Let's go back into our side by side. And again, really get this very, very close, very, very quickly, okay? Shot match. Now let's go, we're going to do a couple of examples here to show you what this can do. So again, on the left here, we have our reference color, and the shot that we want to match for this particular one is this. And if you look on our monitor here, it's got this kind of a green cast, okay? But we've got faces. So once again, I'll select our clip. We're going to go into Color Wheels and Match with face detection, apply match, let Adobe Sensei do its work, and it gets us there. Now I'm looking at the sky, and the sky has more of those sort of magenta highlights. So again, just going to push these a little bit towards that magenta to get that sky to look even more similar. And I'm looking at some of the face tones there. They're looking very good. Let's go into our basic corrections and maybe add back in a little contrast. Now here's where something like the side-by-side becomes very useful, because as I reveal the sky, it looks like she's in that same environment. Different vantage point, of course, but same environment. Similarly with our vertical horizontal view here, again, it looks like it's coming from that same place very quickly. For me to do something like this manually would have taken forever because I'm not that skilled with color. Now it's seconds. And if you know what you're doing, even more so. But Adobe Sensei is taking care of most of the work for you. Now, a really common request is, okay, even especially for non-colorists, I have my favorite film. I want to match my shot, my movie, which is this over here, to my favorite film still. So we've got a couple of different film stills here. Let's go for this one. So once again, over to Color Wheels and Match, keep face detection on, apply match. And it just nails it. Sometimes you will see one click, it's just done. It's there. And sometimes you have to tweak it a little. But we get you most of the way there that much faster. And by the way, if you then have subsequent clips that you need to apply this look to, you don't have to rerun Color Match. You have the option from within Lumetri to either save just everything as a preset, or you can actually export these as LUTs via .look or .cube files to be used elsewhere as well. So if you were going outside of Premiere to do your color, you can distribute those .cube files as well. Pretty nice. Now the last thing I'll show you with regard to color actually deals directly with working with stock footage. So quick show of hands here. How many of you, whether it's Adobe Stock or someone else, use stock video in your edits? Okay, a lot of hands. Over the last few years, we've seen more and more of this, part of why we now offer Adobe Stock directly integrated into Premiere Pro. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But if you're shooting, like this scene here, which was shot in Santa Cruz, and I needed another shot, I needed to fill it in. So I found one that was very, very close, But again, as a non-colorist, I start having extreme stress because the sky, the sun, those tones look pretty close. But the water, it's wrong, right? We have these sort of very dark, deep tones, magenta-y, dark on the left, and then everything is kind of green on the right. And to be honest, I really wouldn't even know where to start. I'd start messing around and it would take me forever and it would never look quite as good. So here again, color wheels and match. Now there's no faces, so we'll uncheck face detection. I'm going to click on apply match. All right. And then just making a little subtle change, I'm going to go into those midtones because I can see that magenta. I'm going to pull in those magenta highlights. Okay? And maybe do a little bit of a lift as well. Now your result will always be a little different. That's kind of the brilliance of how this works. And here, if I go into our horizontal split, okay, so here's the original. Let's put it right up at the horizon. It looks like that sun is reflecting onto the water, right? You can feel it, you can see it. There's our stock clip. There's our match. And again, if you were cutting between these in a scene, it's just going to feel unified. It's going to feel normal. This is incredibly powerful. Really, truly endless. You can create presets and do anything with this. Powered by Adobe Sensei's machine learning technology, our new color matching. Okay, so now we're going to skip ahead a little bit, talk a little bit more about Adobe Sensei, but this time we're going to focus on audio workflows. And this is something which pretty much all of you have asked for about a year, because this next feature was something that we first introduced into Audition, and we've now brought it directly into Premiere Pro. And it is the ability to automatically duck music against dialogue. Right? No matter what kind of stuff you shoot, anything that has someone speaking and you probably have music underneath it, you have to duck the music at some point. Now, of course, there's several different ways to do this. You can go into our track mixer and you can go into a write automation mode and you can do what's known as just writing the fader, right? So you're watching, looking at waveforms, and every time they're speaking, you drop the levels of the music. Simple. It automates in one live step and you're good. You're doing it in real time at a time loss to you, but that's a fine workflow. You also can simply come in here. This is probably what I did previously most of the time, which is you just draw the volume envelopes with keyframes. Just as easy, probably even easier. Time consuming though. Now last year we introduced the Essential Sound panel. The concept being that we were bringing the power and flexibility and quality of great sound mixing to video editors who are perhaps not audio experts. And when you tag your files, your media, with one of 4 audio types, the most commonly encountered audio types for video, dialogue, music, sound effects, and ambience, we then reveal to you all of the commonly used filters and effects to mix dialogue, sound effects, ambience, and music. So let's take a quick listen to this as it is right now. It's unmixed, there's dialogue and music, and you'll hear that obviously there's an imbalance. Here we go.
It's weird. Like I've always struggled with self-doubt. All these questions about like, are you enough? What are you going to do with your life?
Okay. So obviously we can't hear him. So we need to do several things here. So the first thing I'm going to do is select all of my dialogue, and here in Essential Sound, I'm going to tell Essential Sound, these are dialogue clips. And when I do that, it now reveals, again, commonly encountered filters and effects that you would use to process dialogue. For all of you who work in broadcast or really any medium today, this is one of the greatest things that we introduced, is loudness normalization. So if you need to take your audio, whether it's individual files or a mixed file, and make them broadcast compliant to the ITU or EBU standard, that's what this does. One click. Adobe Sensei, boom. This is making your content broadcast compliant. This isn't like, oh, we're kind of making this one loud and measuring that. No, that's what this is for. You can bank on this. You then have the ability to repair noise, rumble, sibilance, electrical hum. You've also got EQ and speech enhancement and volume and creative reverb. But what I start with and typically will use is dynamic compression. Adding a little bit of compression to even out the dynamics of his speaking. Now, as someone who speaks all the time, my volume is very consistent. No matter whether I'm extremely excitable or whatever it is, there's always basically never out-of-band peaks because I do this 24/7. But you can hear here that he's getting kind of quiet every now. And then he gets a little bit more. And you got to fix those things. And everyone on the stream is going, is there something wrong with the sound? You need to add some compression. Now, compression is very difficult to implement if you don't really know how to set an audio compressor. Again, powered by Adobe Sensei, what we're doing is we're looking at all of your audio clips and we're automatically detecting the threshold levels. Threshold is the point at which compression begins, and then we dynamically adjust the ratio to give you a clearer, more focused sound. And we do all of this with a single slider. Now, the full effect, which is our dynamics processor, is running in the background, and you can still make manual tweaks to attack, release, to your ratio, to the ramp, all of these things. But again, as an editor, maybe you don't care about that. So one slider does it. So take a listen. We're going to start with the more natural sound. I'm going to wind this back, and I'm going to gradually increase this, and you'll hear how we start to bring those vocals forward. Take a listen.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I've always struggled with self-doubt. All these questions about like, oh,
Before,
are you enough?
after.
What are you gonna do with your life? When I am on that seam.
Okay, so you can hear the vocals are pushed forward. They're clean. There's no pumping or breathing. Again, these are artifacts of poorly set compressors. This does not happen here. This is kind of the magic of Adobe Sensei. But we still need to implement some ducking because the dialogue is obviously still, you're just not hearing it clearly enough. So let's go ahead and select my music, tag it as music, and then you will see we now have the option for ducking. And when you go into ducking, the default wants you to duck against dialogue, but you also have the ability to duck against music, sound effects, ambience, or even content that isn't tagged. So let's say you're working with someone who's sending you a Final Cut XML, or they're coming from Avid, or they're bringing in a Pro Tools OMF. None of that audio has tags in it. You can still use this ducking feature with that content. Or if you started in Premiere and you've tagged things, you choose the appropriate tag. Now, what's so wonderful about this is it's three basic settings. You have sensitivity, which again is your threshold, the point at which it will begin to duck the music. Then you have your reduction. Now, the default is 18 dB. That's a little aggressive. So I'm instead going to change this to around -10.5 or so. And then your fade time is how long it takes, so when it begins the duck, and then once it stops ducking, how long it takes to ramp the music back up. So the default is 800 milliseconds. That's pretty musical. Let's go ahead and leave that. And I'm simply going to click Generate Keyframes. And when I do that, what you will now see down below is that it has drawn all of the envelopes for you, ducking the music against your dialogue. And, as you might expect, as you can see these keyframes, they are fully editable. So, now, let's go ahead and wind this back and play it again and hear our result.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I've always struggled with self-doubt. All these questions about like, oh, like, are you enough? What are you gonna do with your life?
What are you going to do with your life? You're going to use auto ducking powered by Adobe Sensei. Oh yeah, thank you. All right. Oh, thank you. Belated clap. Oh, you're too kind. They can't hear it on the stream. They're just going to have to believe me. All right? This is not reinventing the wheel, I realize. We should have given you this sooner. But now you have it. And it's awesome. And it's dynamic. And as you move things around, it will relearn. And as you click Generate Keyframes, it'll redraw that curve for you. Saves an enormous amount of time. Okay, in our last couple of minutes here, we're going to talk about motion graphics templates in Adobe Stock. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with motion graphics templates, I heard that. For those of you unfamiliar, you will already know that we offer Adobe Stock Video, and you can actually become an Adobe Stock Video contributor directly out of Premiere Pro. So I often say if you shoot a lot of B-roll and it's sitting around, directly from Premiere Pro, you can go into Media Encoder. If you don't know this, I'll even show you the workflow right now. go into Media Encoder, File, Media, Export, and inside the Media Encoder, under the Publish tab, you'll see that directly from here, you can actually publish and upload content to Adobe Stock. Powered by Adobe Sensei, it will automatically keyword and tag all of your video. You just have to give it a title, and then it gets submitted for consideration. We don't just let you monetize immediately, of course. People have to decide if your content is good enough. But once they do, you can begin monetizing. And it's all about those side hustles today. Well, we also offer, introduced at the end of last year, motion graphics templates. The concept behind this is, once again, for the editor. What if you're not an After Effects expert, right? Well, I want some beautiful lower thirds, or a beautiful title sequence, or a credit roll, or animated backgrounds, or transitional elements. This is what Adobe Stock is all about. Created by some of the most well-known and most respected motion designers in the industry, including Video Copilot, Andrew Kramer himself, who will be joining us on the Adobe stage in about an hour. He has free content in Adobe Stock. So we're going to show you some of the content in just a moment, but first I want to show you how easy it is to manipulate these things from within Premiere Pro as an editor. So I've got a couple of clips here. These motion graphics templates that you see were built in After Effects. So if you take a look, you'll see we've got some nice text, this little sort of seam line that blurs. All right, we're using the same template multiple times. That's the concept of a template, right? You're reusing it multiple times and modifying little things about it in different ways. Okay? Well, one of the things that you have now in Essential Graphics is different ways that you can filter and search for your motion graphics templates, including the ability to immediately find your favorites. So I've gone ahead and starred my favorite, which happens to be that same one that you see down below. I'm going to drag this down into my timeline. Now, here it is in its default state, and if we go into Edit, you will now see that you have all of those parameters available to you. These are the parameters that the motion designer gives you to be edited. You never have to go into After Effects, and that's the idea. The motion designer says, okay, what do you need to edit in your templates? Lower third, whatever it is. Okay, text, your job title, the first and last fields, maybe the position of where it is. They can determine all of these elements. Carl Soule will be back later today to show you in After Effects how these are built and all the incredible flexibility and complexity that you can add to your motion graphics templates. I'm going to go ahead in here and type in directed by, and you'll see that it immediately updates. And the director is Brian Rawlis, and we're going to change the position. And by the way, it's worth pointing out that in the previous update, if you wanted to bring in position, scale, and rotation keyframes in After Effects, they actually had to be, you had to use an expression and then an expression slider to make those part of a motion graphics template. Now in this latest update, you can just drag 2D position, rotation, and scale right in. No expressions required. All right? And while I'm at it, you see we also have this edge wipe rotation. Well, I want that to kind of follow the break of the wave right there. Maybe they'll sort of come together in the middle. Something like this, okay? Again, it's all real time. Let's go ahead and wind this back and play it. Oh, look at that. And it breaks together. And you can look at these templates, which you didn't ultimately author, and think, God, I'm amazing. Or maybe not. All right. So I do this, and I make these changes, and the template looks good. And the director comes, and he goes, it looks great. But you know what? Marketing said they don't like that font. They want to change it. Okay. But we want to keep all the modifications that you made. Well, in the previous Premiere, you couldn't simply update one element. In fact, you actually had to bring in the same graphics template again and redo it all. And that graphics template would have had to have been saved with another font. Well, now, borrowing a process from After Effects, if I select this template down below, and I grab this new version of it that has the font change, if I hold down the Alt or Option key, I'm going to perform what's called a Smart Replace. And when I do that, you'll see it's going to pop up this dialog that says, do you want to replace all the instances of this graphic in all sequences? And the answer is yes. And when I do that, now what you see is that we have this cursive font, but all of my modifications are retained. And similarly, if we go back here, same thing. Same thing, same thing. Super cool. Now remember, I told you that the comparison view can be used for more than just color. So what if we're looking at this and the director says, maybe we want that angle seem to be going the other direction. What would that look like before you commit to it? We can go into our comparison view, side by side, frame comparison, and now, again, the after side, I can make those modifications and let them see and change anything here before I commit the changes. So the comparison shot mode here, frame view, allows us to do that not just with color, but with virtually any effect or your motion graphics templates. Incredibly powerful, my friends. And as mentioned, you also have a whole new way to search on Adobe stock content. You'll also see here we've got checkboxes for free or premium. You also now in this new version have hover scrub real-time playback here, so you can actually see what it is before you download or license these. And of course, when you come into those motion graphics templates, what are the first ones you're going to search on? Free, of course. Why would you search otherwise? You go into free, and this shows you all the various free ones that we have as they load in here. All right? Come up at the top here, this one that you see here, the future. All right, I love this one. This happens to be one of Andrew Kramer's free templates. Why he gave them to us for free, I honestly don't know. We're very lucky. And you're lucky, because you can download this right now and begin using this one, okay? If you want to know more about this, we've got this info button. It tells you the price, the duration, the file size, the fonts that are used. Why is this essential? These were created with Typekit. Typekit is deeply integrated into all of our Adobe applications. So it means that if you create a motion graphics template, regardless of whom you share it with, if they're using an Adobe application, it'll say, hey, you don't have Atremont Regular. Do you want to license that, synchronize that right now? Yes. Boom. And everything happens in the background and it displays properly. Your content will always display properly. Now, quickly, must say, you can use non-Typekit fonts in a motion graphics template. It just means that your client or whomever you're collaborating with must also have that font. Similarly, you can also use third-party After Effects effects with motion graphics templates, but the same applies. If I want to use Trapcode Shine, when I give it to my other friend who's doing something else, he's got to have Shine, otherwise it won't display properly. We can't package up someone else's third-party effect, all right? And the very last thing I'll show you, sorry I'm about a minute over, we started a little late, is something that you've all been asking for some time, and we're now bringing it to you. Now, I was going to show you this with this original content, but it wasn't quite as dramatic enough, so I found a clip of my own, and this deals directly with VFR, support for variable frame rate. Right? So anyone who shot stuff on an iPhone or an Android device and brought it into Premiere over the last couple of years may have noticed occasionally that you sometimes got some audio drift. Anyone ever experience audio drift with, yes, phone content? Yes. And then you'd go, but it plays in QuickTime, and then you'd have to go through VLC or do something else to convert, and blah. That's what I think about that. Well, we heard you. Took a while, but we heard you. And now if you go into the Master tab, let me go ahead and play this back for you first. So this is some content just to show you how long ago this has been like the way it is. This was shot on an iPhone 4. Now, it wasn't shot that long ago, but with an iPhone 4, which even then used 1080 VFR video. Watch this and watch my hands and listen, and you'll see within about 5 seconds, it just goes way out of sync. What you wanna do, party hardy all day long until the night is through. Right? Out of sync. And then what did I do? I didn't use this clip because I tried to sync it and it just never connected. In the Master tab, you'll now see MPEG source settings, variable frame rate mode, preserve audio sync. Let's go ahead and wind this back, same spot, and take a look. Here we go. Hard to understand. Just tell me where you wanna go and what you wanna do. Party hardy all day long until the night is through. Yes! Synchronized! Thank you for that little bit of clapping. Don't overdo it, right. It's just for the live stream, really, millions watching. It's okay. My friends, these are just some of the incredible innovations in the latest update to Premiere Pro, available today via Creative Cloud. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next time. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.